want to talk this whole month about that relationship dynamic. I like the whole month is going to be about relationships and communication. It's like a big one, right? Everybody says that's the key to everything. But, if I'm talking to an empty room, it doesn't create any energy. And so it's very awesome to be able to share each other. So we're going to have a little bit of a testimony later from Daniel and Elisa about their workshop experience at Yam. Am I saying that right? Okay. Yeah, is it Yam or Yam? Yay. Yeah, okay, got it. I'm geeking out over that. Okay. So yeah, this Labor Day weekend, and I thought I would share a little story about a Labor Day experience that stuck into my mind for my entire life. It stayed with me since childhood. So get ready. This is one of the seared into my mind. And it's actually it's a very small moment, actually. And I'm reminded of it because I know a lot of people that are going on trips for Labor Day weekend. They're road tripping, or they're going to Disneyland, or they're going here or there. And it's actually kind of a lot of work to enjoy Labor Day if you're out there in the traffic. And I think that's kind of interesting dynamic. It's supposed to be a day where the people who work get rest. It doesn't work. People that work have to work extra hard to go to Disneyland for their kids. And I was talking to somebody yesterday. I said, wow, you do so well with your kids. He had 2 kids, and it was Saturday. It was a farmer's market or something. And he said, yeah. And I said, wow, it looks like you're really active. It must be a lot of work. He's like, no, my days off are Monday through Friday at my job. That's my days off. He said, the real work starts Saturday and Sunday when I'm with the kids. And I was just telling Portia, this is such a funny theme that pops up out of nowhere, because I was just telling Portia, and he's like, hey, how is it, being in your house? It's just you and your dog, no Keishu around this week. And I said, it's unorganized. It's not organized. But what I realized is that with the last little bit of energy I have, I'm working all day, between doing things, we're working out with possibly these renters at church. We're doing this, looking at the mortgage. We're doing all this stuff right now. It's a busy season. And now I'm thinking about Christmas concert and all this other stuff coming up. And then I'm working at night. And so when I get home, I'm exhausted. And Edmund has been sleeping all day waiting to play with me. So when I get in the door, he's just literally doing circles around me. And I'm like, I am so exhausted. And I'm trying to find ways to lay in bed while playing fetch. Is there a way to has anybody figured it out? Because I'm trying. I'm like laying on the couch with one leg up. I'm like, go get it. And he can tell. He just looks at me like, your heart's not in it. Your heart's not in it. I can tell. And they give up, don't they? They just give up. When you're really in there, they feel it. When you're just throwing the ball and like trying to catch 2 Z's between, they know, and they give up. And I hate that feeling of disappointing them. So with my last bit of energy, I was literally playing fetch at like 1 a.m. last night when I should have been prepping for this. I was just playing fetch with my dog. But it's interesting. So my Labor Day story from childhood, I didn't know what the word Labor Day meant. Actually, if you're a young kid, you might not know. It's not quite as obvious. What do you do and celebrate on Labor Day? It's not quite so obvious as a kid. I'm hoping I'm not the only kid that was that slow to it. So just agree and pretend like you think I'm right about that. Okay, good. $20. Yeah, so my dad on Labor Day was driving me home from baseball practice or whatever we were doing, something that was related to me, guitar lesson, baseball practice, something. And on the way home, we're talking, and he said, yeah, today's Labor Day. And I said, what's Labor Day? What does that mean? And he said, it's for people who work, really quickly. And in hindsight, I get why he said it like that, but at the time I was like, that's too short of an explanation. I don't understand. What do you mean people who work? So then I said, so Dad, so that means like people like you, like we celebrate you? And then he got so hurt and mad. He's like, yeah. And he did an eye roll. And you know as a kid how actually hurtful the eye roll from your parent is? It's actually very hurtful. It sinks in a lot deeper than you would think. I remember it to this day. That's how hard it hit me. And now looking back, I realize he thought I meant, Dad, you have a job? You work? And I wasn't asking that. I mean, that would have been kind of offensive. I wasn't asking that. I was asking, so you mean any type of person working in any capacity at all, right? So that was the question I was asking, but he didn't take it that way. So he was driving, 10% of his brain's probably actually listening, and he's probably driving, and it's Labor Day, so it's probably his day off. And he's probably thinking, I work my rear end off my whole life, and I get one day off, and I'd have to drive you to Little League, and you ask me if I work? I mean, offensive, right? So now I realize later, I'm like, okay, that's why. But it was such a big deal that my mom came to me like a day later and said, you really hurt Dad's feelings. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't remember it, As a kid, it's like one day at a time. She's like, this thing about Labor Day. And I'm like, and I still didn't get it. So, remember, I just figured out what Labor Day was. It's still just like a vague concept to like an 8-year-old or 10-year-old kid, right? So she said, you really should apologize. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't know what so this was a whole big drama in my house for like 3 days. Of course, I wasn't the easiest kid, so I probably like waited as long as possible to do the apology or something, I don't know. But then I realized how much work goes unnoticed and unvalidated and unappreciated. And I wonder how many months or even years my dad had been working without getting any acknowledgement from me. As a kid, you just take it for granted. And I remember hearing later that he used to work two truck driving jobs. So he'd do a 12-hour shift with one truck driving job and then work with another company and say, yeah, I'm free, yeah. So the two companies didn't know about each other, and then he would work 2 12-hour shifts in a row. And he was doing that 3, 4, 5 days a week. It's like, I don't know how that was I look back now thinking, okay, now I understand. But actually it takes a lot of work to even just communicate. And sometimes you're too tired to communicate that you appreciate somebody, or they don't even realize that they want that or need that. So something that I've been running into is, hey, you never say like, good job, or I don't know how you feel about this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I'm here, I'm working every day. Isn't that enough proof that I care? But actually, it takes a little extra effort to say and validate somebody and appreciate them. So I realized that's what my dad was kind of missing. So I was thinking about that loop of communication, how easy it is and how much actually labor it takes to communicate something very simple. And something my mom taught me, I have 2 golden nuggets of wisdom from my parents, one from my mom today and one from my dad. And my dad's coming later. But my mom's lesson that always stuck with me is what constitutes communication. It actually is a lot more work than you think. It's the common misunderstanding is that if I open my mouth, I'm communicating. If I open my mouth, that's it. And then there's a second level of miscommunication or misunderstanding, which is if I open my mouth and you nod, now we're really communicating. And that's not true either. Sometimes, when somebody's talking and you're just so out of it, you're like, you don't know what they're saying. It actually takes more work to listen than to talk. There's studies about that. More work and more energy to listen. So somebody can be nodding and they hear like 1 or 2 words. The full communication loop is person A, it's a 3-step thing. Person A speaks, person B hears it, acknowledges it, And then the third step is he repeats it back, and person A hears back what they said. So sometimes that happens all the time in life. Arguments can start over this. Like, hey, honey, could you do the dishes today? The husband goes, yeah. You know, he doesn't do the dishes. She gets mad, and he's like, oh, I thought you said do the dishes. I was going to do it tomorrow. She's like, I said today, and you said yes. Those little things happen all the time. All the time. And it would take so much effort to say, I hear that you're saying to do it today, but actually I don't think I'll have energy tonight. Can I do it tomorrow morning? I mean, how labor intensive is that? I get frustrated and impatient when I'm like doing something with a telecom company or something over the phone, and they say, okay, sir, what's your account identification number? And I go, A as in apple, C as in cerulean, T as in Tyrannosaurus Rex, 9-7. And she goes, okay. Okay, let me see. I think I got it. Let me repeat it back to you. A as in Annie, B as in Bartholomew. I'm like, no, it's not B as in Bartholomew. It's C as in cerulean. How much work does this take to go back and forth? And when they repeat it back to you, or they repeat back to your credit card number, sometimes they do it so slowly. I'm like, I don't care if you get it wrong. I'm like at that point where like, just don't repeat it back to me. I'm so tired. It takes so much work to do the full communication loop. So much work. But I realize actually that's part of being graceful and a good communicator, especially with the people you love. Because these little things can turn into actual fights and problems. And I thought that was a great little nugget. The only problem with this model that I'm kind of explaining, the part that I don't think my mom explained, she was telling me this as a probably teenager or something. Probably because I wasn't listening, right? The part that I learned later is that it's not a math thing. It's not a formula. It's not person A, person B says, it doesn't even work like that even, because it matters the timing and the mood. So almost like a cell phone signal needs clear signal. So if I'm driving and I'm nodding and saying yes, I'm probably not hearing it all, Maybe that's what was going on with my dad when he misheard my question about Labor Day. So there actually needs to be the right mood and the right timing and right atmosphere. And so if you can tell that the atmosphere is not right, you can kind of lighten up on the person and be a little bit more graceful, right? And this is something that I think I've learned not too long ago. Me and Casey were like, hey, she'll tell me, I can tell you can't hear what I'm saying right now. I'll come back tomorrow with this. My mind will be somewhere else. But in the past, it'll be like, hey, did you hear me? But now it's beyond that. It's more like I can tell the signal's not clear. Phone's not getting through. It's okay. And this reminds me of a lesson that my dad taught me a long time ago. He told me, if you're going to give somebody really bad news or have a tough conversation with somebody, make sure to eat a large meal before you do it. That's advice number 2. And I can't tell you how this has worked. I've had to let people go out of bands. I've had to do things. I think one person still hates my guts because I fired him. It's hard. Actually, that time that I did that, I didn't do the meal trick. So I can say that it actually didn't work when I didn't do the meal trick. But if you eat a really nice big meal and they're relaxed and they're nourished, you can speak to somebody and give them input that may be otherwise hard for them to hear, maybe agitating, or they might be uptight. I thought that was genius, and it has worked for me. And the deeper principle is that there is a graciousness that we should try to attain in our communications. And the quote that I have today for that is Ephesians 4:29. Is it here? Oh, wow. Cool picture. I didn't do that. Do not let any wholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And in the original, like Old English, King James style, it says something a little different. It says, may you administer grace to them, even if you are edifying them. It's a very classy way to say it. So even if you're saying, there's spinach in your teeth, you can say it in a way that has grace. So grace is something that we can all aim for when we communicate. It actually takes more labor. It takes more work and more emotional energy. And so as we're celebrating Labor Day, I would like to just encourage you all to take it a couple steps further than just, hey, honey, you work really hard. Let's take a day off on Labor Day and just do something fun. Let's try to bring it a little bit more meaning where we acknowledge the work that they've been doing verbally. Hey, honey, I can see you work really hard for this family, and I really appreciate you, all the little things you do. As a kid, try telling that to your parents. You'll probably make them cry. We don't say these things enough. And so I kind of learned from my Labor Day, literally every single Labor Day that comes around, I think about this story. And so I want you to tell the ones you love very specifically, muster the energy and the emotional capacity to verbally appreciate the people that are important in your life. I think it's it'll go so long. I mean, look how long this one little thing stayed with me. Look how long it stays. So tell each other you appreciate and you validate and you notice what they're doing. Don't just assume, oh, we're a team. We're teammates, right? You do your work, I do my work, see you tomorrow. That's kind of how couples operate, and I'm guilty of that. I'm totally guilty of that. I would be like, well, you see me working hard, and I see you working hard. Okay, we're on the same page, no problems here. See you tomorrow. It's nice to add that little touch of grace, especially today. So I want to encourage you all to go for that. Those are some practical pieces of wisdom from both of my parents. I hope you can take them with you and enjoy, and have a wonderful traffic-less Labor Day if you can. Thank you very much.